too bigger portions for the young age kids she has, and a lot of the food is quite bad. But I don't think she's a terrible mother, because you can see in the videos she actually does put effort in like cooking her children food. It's not all just stuff that goes in the oven for 30 minutes. She literally does cook them food, but because of some of these viral TikToks, everyone is saying she's literally like such a terrible mother. And I want to talk about her content, and I want to criticize some of these videos and just talk about the general issues as well. Like, use it as an opportunity to talk about, like, why do Americans eat badly? Why do Americans in particular have like higher rates of obesity than most countries? And what is unique to America, like food deserts, like disgustingly like lax food regulation in terms of groceries and stuff, and poverty, and how that all contributes to things like obesity coming from not eating a healthy diet. And a lot of people accuse me of being holier than thou a lot of times, but I get that vibe more from these videos where they're just shaming an individual for problems caused by the system, because telling this mother she's trash for cooking her kids bad food sometimes, like, what does that do apart from make yourself feel better for eating healthy? I really don't understand the point of the videos if all you're gonna do is just tell this person they're terrible for cooking this food. None of them are fair critiques, none of them offer suggestions, none of them offer help, none of them even inquire about this person's economic situation. It's just like, yeah, you're a terrible person because you cooked your 1-year-old a donut that time that went viral. So gonna talk about all of this today. Please follow me on social media at The Cavernacle on mainly Threads and Blue Sky, but please check out my Instagram as well, my personal and my travel Instagram. And if you want to support my work, please check out the Patreon page where you can view videos ad-free. I should have done this ages ago, but I didn't know you could upload directly to Patreon. Shows how stupid I am. But also, you get access to the Discord server. So if you want to support my work, go and check that out. So TikTok creator Alex Babby97 has 408k followers, 19.2 million likes, and most of their videos revolve around them cooking dinner or cooking meals for her 3 children. And at times she's a single mum, and then another video she has like partners and stuff. So I don't know what the situation is there. But what she has been able to do through this is basically become like a self-employed creator, because she has like wish lists for food or just general wish lists for stuff for her children, and she makes money off the TikTok creator program. And that's probably in part because of the controversy around her content. Now, I've went through her content earlier today, and because you can't download the videos, I think it's a setting on TikTok you can turn on or off. I basically have written them down, so I'm not going to watch them right now, but I have watched all of the ones I'm going to show you. And let's just start with the 2 controversial ones. So there's 2 ones of her serving one of her children like these donuts, and another one of her giving like these massive bowls of sweets to her kids as well.
You guys, it's Alex, and the other day at the store I got the kids all a different type of marshmallows, so I'm going to give them a little assortment of all of them and see how they like it.
Am I getting blue or blue? Let's do our pick scissors again. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
And there's their snack. It's a bunch of different kinds of marshmallows.
So obviously in a vacuum, people take these videos and they get outraged. How could you give a kid that for breakfast? How could you give kids that size amount of sweets and stuff? Like, which I get. And I think the main thing that plays into this is because the creator here is overweight herself. People use this as both an excuse to say terrible things to her and also say you're creating like mini versions of you. You're just passing this on to your children based on like these 2 TikToks you see. And yeah, like those portions for sweets, bad. Have I eaten stuff like that as a 7-year-old kid? Yeah, you know, Did my mum give it to me? No. But, you know, on the odd occasion, if it's like Easter, if I'm eating that, she's not probably going to stop me and stuff. So yeah, in a vacuum, that's probably bad. But let's go through the rest of her content. And you'll see like the scale here. You'll see food where you're like, well, that is just like oven food, probably pretty processed, probably not great for you. The portions are pretty big. But then you'll see stuff like, I remember I saw a video, it was like someone's breakfast, 2 little pancakes, bananas, and like raspberries or something, right? Totally like normal food. And while you're watching this, think about your own life, or think about like any household you might have, gone to when you were a kid and the stuff you would have eaten there. Does anything here really scream, this person is a terrible mother? Like, sure, we can criticize certain elements of it, and in my opinion, the pork's babby, nice.
And therefore, she started showing us how not skinny moms feed their kid with donuts. And this is why people flipped out. Not only did she feed them donuts, but then she gave her daughter applesauce to wash it all down as she stares into the camera and gives us the thumbs up. And in her head, she's saying, that's right, people, I'm gonna give my kids the obesity just like me.
So yeah, this video has almost 30 million views. It has 700,000 likes, a ton of different shares, comments, and a majority of those comments are people telling her, please don't ever feed your child this. Okay, don't ever show yourself feeding your child this. Do not film this video. Why was this video even made? Please don't do this. That's unhealthy. What are you thinking? What is she thinking? Seriously, what the hell is she thinking? I just want to point out once again, look at all those likes, look at all those saves. And this comes after the viral video where she's feeding her kids donuts and everyone was literally calling for her to stop doing this. I feel like people caring about your kids and their health is not something that should be written off as, oh, you're bullying me. No, we want the best for your kids. We also don't want this kind of stuff spread on social media and defended by other parents. Do you know how scary that is, that other parents are defending this behavior? Do you know how bad that is?
So I'm not on TikTok. So lately, I guess over the last 6 months, I've been watching more like videos about TikTok trends. Now think of a YouTuber like Funky Frogbait. Now her videos are a good example because they don't have the problems in which I'm going to discuss today, in that because she has left-wing politics and she can analyze systems that cause certain problems, you don't find that like wanting in her video. And that's why I think they're the best types of these videos. But there are so many channels dedicated to this, and I guess even I do this sometimes, and I guess I'm doing it today, but they will take a TikTok trend and break it down. And when you're watching this, it's easily compatible with a left-wing point of view. And I think like a lot of these creators are like generally left-wing, maybe not like really hardline and stuff. But in that, I find often their criticisms of things like, let's say, TikTok overconsumption and Temu and stuff, it rings really hollow because their criticism is basically like the surface level. It's, oh, why are you buying so much stuff that you don't need? That's like bad for the environment, without like really elaborating on it further. And although I'm happy that it seems to be like more young people are left wing these days, I also think sometimes, as we're going to get into, it leads to problems like this. So you guys might have seen this a couple months ago. I am a bit late to this. And it was basically someone on TikTok making like breakfast for their 1-year-old. And in the video that went really viral, this person was making like powdered donuts or something to give to a kid. And it went really viral, and what happened after that is loads of YouTubers started making videos about how she's basically like a terrible mother. She's the worst mother ever, because when you look at her page, you can find more examples of her serving her children like not so healthy food. And all these channels like jumped on it and they made these videos telling everyone what we all know. Yeah, like eating bad food is bad, cooking bad food for your kids too much is bad. But what they really miss is there's no analysis of any of the systems that contribute to people doing this in the first place. And also, I feel like a lot of people deliberately misrepresented this woman, because if you actually go through her TikTok, she doesn't just make her kids trash all the time. And a lot of the meals she makes are really standard meals you'd find in like most American households. And even if they're not like particularly healthy, they're not really the worst thing I've ever seen either. And I think a lot of us can relate to eating these types of dinners at times. I would say this person does make too big a portions for the young age kid she has, and a lot of the food is quite bad. But I don't think she's a terrible mother, because you can see in the videos she actually does put effort in like cooking her children food. It's not all just stuff that goes in the oven for 30 minutes. She literally does cook them food, but because of some of these viral TikToks, everyone is saying she's literally like such a terrible mother. And I want to talk about her content, and I want to criticize some of these videos and just talk about the general issues as well. Like, use it as an opportunity to talk about, like, why do Americans eat badly? Why do Americans in particular have like higher rates of obesity than most countries? And what is unique to America, like food deserts, like disgustingly like lax food regulation in terms of groceries and stuff, and poverty, and how that all contributes to things like obesity coming from not eating a healthy diet. And a lot of people accuse me of being holier than thou a lot of times, but I get that vibe more from these videos where they're just shaming an individual for problems caused by the system. Because telling this mother she's trash for cooking her kids bad food sometimes, like, what does that do apart from make yourself feel better for eating healthy? I really don't understand the point of the videos if all you're gonna do is just tell this person they're terrible for cooking this food. None of them are fair critiques, none of them offer suggestions, none of them offer help, none of them even inquire about this person's economic situation. It's just like, yeah, you're a terrible person because you cooked your 1-year-old a donut that time that went viral. So I'm gonna talk about all of this today. Please follow me on social media at The Cavernacle on mainly Threads and Blue Sky, but please check out my Instagram as well, my personal and my travel Instagram. And if you want to support my work, please check out the Patreon page where you can view videos ad-free. I should have done this ages ago, but I didn't know you could upload directly to Patreon. Shows how stupid I am. But also, you get access to a Discord server. So if you support my work, go and check that out. So TikTok creator Alex Babby97 has 408k followers, 19.2 million likes, and most of their videos revolve around them cooking dinner or cooking meals for her 3 children. And at times she's a single mum, and then another video she has like partners and stuff, so I don't know what the situation is there. But what she has been able to do through this is basically become like a self-employed creator, because she has like wish lists for food or just general wish lists for stuff for their children, and she makes money off the TikTok creator program. And that's probably in part because of the controversy around her content. Now, I went through her content earlier today, and because you can't download the videos, I think it's a setting on TikTok you can turn on or off. I basically have written them down, so I'm not going to watch them right now, but I have watched all of the ones I'm going to show you. And let's just start with the 2 controversial ones. So there's 2 ones of her serving one of her children like these donuts, and another one of her giving like these massive bowls of sweets to her kids as well.
It's Alex, and the other day at the store, I got the kids all of different type of marshmallows, so I'm going to give them a little assortment of all of them and see how they like it.
Can I get a little blue? So I can scissors again. Rock, paper, scissors, shoe.
And there's their snack. It's a bunch of different kinds of marshmallows.
So obviously in a vacuum, people take these videos and they get outraged. How could you give a kid that for breakfast? How could you give kids that size amount of sweets and stuff? Like, which I get. And I think the main thing that plays into this is because the creator here is overweight herself, people use this as both an excuse to say terrible things to her and also say you're creating like mini versions of you. You're just passing this on to your children based on like these 2 TikToks you see. And yeah, like those portions for sweets, bad. Have I eaten stuff like that as a 7-year-old kid? Yeah. You know, did my mum give it to me? No, but, you know, on the odd occasion, if it's like Easter, if I'm eating that, she's not probably going to stop me and stuff. So yeah, in a vacuum, that's probably bad. But let's go through the rest of her content. And you'll see like the scale here. You'll see food where you're like, well, that is just like oven food, probably pretty processed, probably not great for you. The portions are pretty big. But then you'll see stuff like, I remember I saw a video, it was like someone's breakfast, 2 little pancakes, bananas, and like raspberries or something, right? Totally like normal food. And while you're watching this, think about your own life, or think about like any household you might have, you know, gone to when you were a kid and the stuff you would have eaten there. Does anything here really scream, this person is a terrible mother? Like, sure, we can criticize certain elements of it, and in my opinion, the portion sizes are way too big. But also, for Americans watching this, is this something that is like very unique in America, or do you think this is something that is very, very common in America? And focusing all your anger on this woman like she is a unique evil is pretty stupid. So have a look at this.
It's hot. Honey. There's her breakfast.
Jason, yeah, that sounds like you.
It's been a morning. This is Jason's. Just get my paper plate, whatever. I know, baby. So I'm plating her food here. When I came to drop it off, I was like, I'm gonna plate it here. So you guys what she's getting.
So as time has gone on, she actually has made an effort, it seems, based on loads of the comments, to make healthier meals for her children. And this woman is also like younger than me with 3 kids, so I can imagine how hard that is. And like I said, before she started becoming a creator, we didn't really know her financial situation. Like, we don't know anything about her. So even calling her a terrible, like, abusive mum for sometimes feeding her kids junk or just not having like a really healthy diet, to me, you could even interpret as like a classist thing, because as we're going to get into a bit later, obesity and poverty are linked already. And even if this person isn't from poverty, there's so many different factors in America which contribute to so many Americans, and it is most Americans, by the way, who are overweight, contributes to them having poor diets. And yeah, like I said, because this creator looks a certain way, people feel like because she's making her kids bad food, they can start being really horrible, right? And I definitely feel like if she looked different, people would probably ignore her, and I don't think you'd be getting viral videos about how she's the worst mum ever. So here's some of the comments for you. You should not be a mother. It seems that you are traumatized by your figure and you want to leave your children the same. Someone please stop her. Why is she feeding her child this crap? She's making her sick. She gonna look like mum? How cute. Like mother, like daughter. You are creating mini you. Aren't you just a bundle of joy? The future is bright for both of you. Sorry, but your kids will look like you, obese and not healthy. Take good care of them. You just want your kids to be obese like you. That's sad. If you're fat and sick, doesn't mean your children need to be the same. Disgusting. And these comments all have like thousands of likes, by the way. Your kids are only eating fat and sugar. They will get diagnosed with diabetes one day and look like you. So it's not just like the YouTubers I'm going to be talking about that have no, notion of things like class and like food politics. It's just everyone loves a punching bag. So here you have someone who's overweight, feeding her kids sometimes bad food, and then they're like, I'll just say terrible things about you. Like, you're a terrible mother. You're fat and you're trying to make your kids fat as well. It's my excuse to make myself feel better. No sympathy at all, no empathy, no thinking about like why this is happening, or even if I have like the worst interpretation of it, like you are just feeding your kids pure garbage all the time. Like there's nothing going on in their heads that thinks maybe I should feel sympathetic to this person. And if this person was charismatic, like in very good shape and stuff, and was making the same food, I guarantee there wouldn't be a backlash like this. It's because a lot of people see an easy target. And now let's get into my problems with the content covering this stuff. Now, the videos on this person are just insane. Like, there's so many of them. The most unhealthy mum situation got worse. The most hated mum on TikTok. The worst parent on TikTok. The most unhealthy mum on the internet. TikTok's most hated mum. The worst mum on TikTok. Marshmallow mum, TikTok's highly controversial mummy vlogger. The most unhealthy mums on the internet. The most reported mum account on TikTok. And I've watched a lot of these videos today. And let's just say, none of them are sympathetic. And they're all just using it as an excuse to dunk on this person. But a lot of them, not all of them, because you would have seen, I think there's a few right-wing creators in there, they're using it as an opportunity to take the moral high ground to attack this person for feeding their children badly. Now, a lot of the sentiment I see as well is they say she's using her children for views. And what I would say to that is her children don't really feature in her content. Like, you don't really see them, right? That's why a lot of people are speculating they might be obese or whatever, but no one really knows because she doesn't really show them. And what I would also say is, if you go back far enough, she has been making this content for a long time. And I guarantee she didn't start this out to make money. And she didn't start this out thinking it could be some sort of job. Like, do you honestly think what this person is posting, like these types of reels, where she's just posting what she's cooking her children, do you think she posted that to shock people, as some people suggest? I would say no, because most of the videos are not shocking. They just look like a normal fucking dinner that someone made, right? Not particularly healthy, but a normal dinner you've seen a million people eat. So this has obviously been so exaggerated, and like I said, they're taking the moral high ground, and a lot of these channels try and cover stuff from more like a leftist angle, about TikTok overconsumption, about all this stuff. About the Stanley Cup. I made a video about that as well, didn't I? And I was talking about consumer capitalism. But like I said, these people just say the things, but there isn't any like deeper analysis behind the things. So basically these videos boil down to mum is bad because she feeds her kids bad and she's probably using them for views. Now, this isn't because I think this video is the worst, but it's the one I watched first. And it's the one I watched thinking like, are you even saying anything about the situation? So it's from a channel called Kiki Chanel. Don't know much about this person, to be honest, but I did watch this video and it's how I discovered the topic. And what I found when I was watching this, beyond learning about what this trend was, it's just her, and it seems to be a trend as well, like watching the whole TikToks and just like barely reacting and saying some offhand stuff. And what she's saying is, of course, like really basic, but it's framing this person in like a very, very negative way. I will play you some of the video, go watch it yourself, make your own mind up. And like I said, no hate to this person in particular, I don't know anything about them, but just in terms of this video, as part of the broader trend of like dunking on this woman for what she cooks her children, I just found it like, not gross or anything, but I just felt it lacking in terms of, are you actually trying to say anything about this issue? or are you just attacking an easy target?
Today we're going to be looking at two different parents who have basically decided to trade their children's health for social media clout, believe it or not. So basically they are feeding their kids extremely unhealthy food, even though thousands and thousands of people are telling them to please stop, don't do this anymore. We don't want to see this. It's unhealthy. Your kids will suffer because of it. They don't care. They continue to do it. They're actually incentivized to make these kind of videos and basically like rage bait people, feeding their kids unhealthy junk and essentially poisoning them. It's very disturbing. It's shocking. Everything that we know about you and what you feed your kids is because you've shown us that. So she's like mad taunting everybody, but it's like, you showed us, you posted those videos. You didn't have to post those videos, but you did. So like I said, these parents have turned this into a full-time job.
Adults being bullies, that's who raises bullies. Is adult bullies.
I'll have you know that my parents taught me nothing about being a bully. I learned it all on my own.
Exactly, they do. Right, like, why did y'all care about anything in my life? How does that affect you guys?
I feel like people caring about your kids and their health is not something that should be written off as, oh, you're bullying me. No, we want the best for your kids. We also don't want this kind of stuff spread on social media and defended by other parents. Do you know how scary that is, that other parents are defending this behavior? Do you know how bad that is?
Now, from this person's video, it's clear the angle she's taking is this woman is exploiting her children for content, and she's actually cooking bad meals because it's rage bait, essentially. But I really think that's fake, because if you go on her TikTok now, go through the videos, some of the most watched ones of her cooking are not her cooking anything controversial, because that's how I started my research. I was like, I'll go watch the most viral ones, and even some of the ones with like 500,000 views to 1 million views, she's just cooking a normal meal, and most of the comments are like, I'm glad you're learning and getting healthier. But that doesn't stop these YouTubers like skewering this person's content to make it look like they're just a massive piece of shit feeding their children garbage for TikTok. Because I really don't get the sense when you actually watch her TikTok, like this is what's happening. So that is just a trend I'm seeing increasingly with these channels, and a lot of them are very popular, and they seem on the surface like left adjacent, like, you know, funky frog-based videos, which are left-wing in my opinion, and I really like them. And this is coming from me, who just talks to the camera, but I feel like these other ones are a bit more low effort, where they kind of take the aesthetics kind of talking about something in terms of like a more intellectual way, where we talk about, you know, child psychology, we talk about food politics in a very basic way. But if you're actually talking about it in a serious way, you would know targeting this woman and shaming her is really just doing nothing. Like, what are you even doing? You could shame 1 million different people in America, tens of millions in America, who do this exact thing, probably even worse for their children, because they probably don't even cook properly. They probably just shove some shit in the oven. And now, also, I wanted to say, she has an Instagram where she talked about losing weight, but she writes on this, I don't talk about my personal changes I make daily on here. Sometimes I'll come on and share a meme or a birthday post or a cute picture of my kids, but I had to share just how much progress I feel I've made. The first picture was taken in January 2020. I started a keto diet, decided to change my lifestyle, and said I'd start my weight loss journey. It lasted all of about a week or two. I was deep in my mental health issues and hadn't yet been diagnosed, barely struggling through life, and had absolutely no motivation. Fast forward to January 2024, this year, when I decided once again to make lifestyle changes. I almost completely went to drinking water on a daily basis, and for the most part, I stuck to it. Then in March, I started going to the gym, changed my diet around, and changed the portions of food I ate. The picture on the right was taken May 28, 2024, so recently. I have done so well on my journey this year. I've had some bumps in the road, and I've gone off my diet a couple times, but this time I jumped right back on it. I'm proud to say I am at my lowest weight I've ever been since I can remember, and 35 pounds down from the weight I was when I got pregnant with Jace. I can only imagine I got heavier before I got smaller, so that's just the way I can actually measure. I'm sure I've lost more. I'm proud of me. I'm coming up on a year of having mental health help that I went and sought out myself, a year of medication I have taken daily, and a year of choosing me and choosing my children. I truly believe getting a handle on your mental health can be the first step to many positive life changes. I never realized just how much my mental health held me back until I looked in the mirror. May 28 and realize how much of a difference has been made. If you're trying to start a lifestyle change of any sort and think you can do it, let me be the first to tell you, you've got this. I'm so proud of me, I can hardly stand it, and I continue to better myself for not only my happiness and health, but to live a long life for my children. Now, that's of course a nice post, and I'm sure a lot of you will say that's great what she's done. But also I'd say a lot of you wouldn't say that, because based on these videos, you don't actually care about this person, even though you're framing it as like, I'm telling you because I know what's best for you. And like I said, people just don't know what's going on in people's lives. So you see a video of this woman, who again is younger than me with 3 children, so there's so much time for change and growth and learning things as you go. Again, having 3 young children, she talked about like her mental health struggles, her weight struggles, and based on one video of her making her kids donuts, apparently she's the worst mum that has ever lived. I don't know about other people's parents, but I know a certain generation of parents definitely don't talk about mental health in this way. It seems like she's self-reflecting enough, and like I said, we just don't know what is going on here. So she's saying, you know, she's had all these struggles and now she's feeling better. So who knows, like in a year or 2, she could be making TikTok content about all the lovely healthy meals she makes. And like I said, I don't even think they were that bad in the first place. Definitely not worthy of millions and millions of views of hate and like hundreds of thousands of terrible comments. And it's a problem in our society is we cannot see beyond the individual. Thank you, neoliberalism. Because like I said, even if she was this caricature which people are making her out to be, I still wouldn't give a shit or think she's worthy of all this hate, because she's just reflective of wider problems and wider symptoms in society. Now, like I said, good for her making that Instagram post, good for her for, you know, getting the help she needs, and like you individualists love, she's taking accountability and she's improving herself. So that's all well and good. Now going on a bit of a tangent to talk about why I find a lot of these YouTube videos so lacking, especially when you don't know anything about this person, is let's talk about food politics, and let's talk about American food politics in particular. And why don't I talk about myself for a second, right? So my parents both come from working class immigrant backgrounds, but my dad did really well in school, and he was one of the few people back then who went to university, and in the lovely socialist utopia that was pre-Margaret Thatcher destroying the UK, they actually paid him to go to university instead of getting like, you know, thousands in student loan debt. So he went to university, got a good corporate job afterwards as well. So while my mum worked and he did at the same time, when they had my eldest brother, they decided that only my dad would work, and he throughout his career has climbed the corporate ladder. So with that, we've gone up in terms of, I guess, class as well. So you would say that, especially as I can remember, because I don't remember being younger, we've had a really middle class upbringing, and my mum was a stay-at-home mum. So my mum has always cooked us relatively healthy food and has always been on our case about eating healthy. My entire life she has, right? And she's always wanted us to eat healthy, and she's always put a lot of effort in to cooking, and she's always had a lot of time to like watch her cooking shows, read her cooking books, because that's what she did while she was looking after us, right? And my dad did his corporate job up London, but she could also, this is part of it, she could afford to buy nice food. We didn't rely on like oven chips and oven chicken. She could afford to buy actually fresh ingredients, loads of vegetables, all that stuff, so she could give us as kids healthy food. And of course, you know, sometimes we ate bad food as well, because like with all parents are just like, you know, you have 3 or 4 children, I'm one of 4, just stick some stuff in the oven and give it to them. Everyone does this. It's not like a sign of a bad parent if they do this, or maybe they even do this a little bit too much with like younger children as well. And obviously I'm from the UK and I grew up in London, a city, so you can get fresh vegetables everywhere, and they're actually pretty cheap as well. The UK, even today with all the rising prices, is one of the better places in Europe and just the West in general for buying groceries. So in that, you know, it was always available to us, and because of my class and because of my parents' economic standing, we could always eat healthy. Now, in terms of my own personal journey of eating healthy, I didn't really give a shit what I ate until I was 18, because I was one of those kids, 6'2", really skinny. My metabolism was super high, and then one day when I was 18, I was like, oh shit, like it's not that high anymore. And then I think I started eating really healthy about 23 years old, and at the moment I'm probably the healthiest I've ever been, but that's just been a journey. And also, I'm 28 years old. I'm about the same age as the person we'll talk about in this video, and I don't have any children. So all my money is spent on myself. So yeah, I can buy the healthy food even when it's increasing in prices. I can buy all these vegetables on my diet at the moment, just eating so much pepper and cucumber and stuff. And I can eat healthy thanks to that, because I have no responsibilities outside of, you know, paying rent and bills and random shit like that, right? So I can spend it on the food. So for a lot of people, that's not a possibility. And obviously you can be a single parent who also works, have multiple children, and then you have that element of time and money where you don't have time to cook meals from scratch that are healthy for your kids. You just have to feed them stuff that is more readily available, but is probably not as healthy. And for a lot of kids, just a simple fact they're getting a decent meal is a good thing, but a lot of kids in this country rely on school meals just because that food is either not available or their parents don't have time to just make it for them, right? And that's a sad fact of life. But in America, it's just so much more heightened because America is just literally ground zero for neoliberal capitalist hell. So let's talk about food politics in America, and I want to talk about the quality of the groceries. So you guys might have seen this meme going round. Here is a comparison between Quaker Oats in the US and the UK. So look at all the extra shit that is in the US version. And countries in the EU, and now just the UK on its own, they have higher food regulation because they do food regulation better, and the food lobby or lobbies around various food products like corn in the US just haven't completely taken over politics yet. So that's why you get all this random shite in your bowl of porridge, which you feel like should be one of the things that has less stuff in it. And an article by Jennifer Shaw, Executive Director, Focus for Health, the American food supply not fit for European consumption. The first major difference between food in the US and the EU is Europeans do not let known or suspected carcinogens, cancer-causing agents in their food. For instance, the widespread use of potassium bromate and ADA, a whitening agent for cereal flour, are common in the US but are not allowed in the EU for human consumption. ADA is a dough conditioner to make the bread stay soft and spongy longer. It's also used to inject bubbles into certain plastics to manufacture soft, spongy goods such as yoga mats. Potassium bromate has been found in lab animal studies to increase benign and malignant tumors in the thyroid and cause significant increases in cancer of the animal's kidneys, thyroid, and other organs. The EU, Canada, and Brazil deemed this information enough to ban these products from their food supply. The US did not. So in the US, you're just eating that shit in your bread. Like something that can fucking kill you and give you cancer, that has been allowed in your bread. And, you know, this expands on why. The important factor in differing the approach to food quality in the EU and the US can be explained by their respective regulatory approaches. Europe takes a cautionary position and will pull a product or additive off the market if it has reason to believe it could cause harm, more of a better safe than sorry approach. The US operates under the innocent until proven guilty model. Better known as, yeah, we'll wait until it actually kills a bunch of you to stop you eating it. And of course, the US situation is worsened by the fact that the US government relies on the companies producing the products to prove their own guilt. In addition to the regulation differences, citizens of the EU generally demand higher quality food than Americans. For this reason, American food companies produce healthier versions of their products to sell overseas, like Heinz, Quaker Oats, and Mountain Dew, have products with less chemical additives available for sale in European markets. These products are developed by US food producers because they know the products available for domestic use will not be accepted in Europe. Oh yeah, Americans, if you thought your country wasn't already cucked enough by capitalism, because of capitalism, you're also eating poison in stuff that shouldn't even be that bad. But you're literally eating it in your bread, and these corporations know, so they sell, and I can attest to this because I've had Mountain Dew from the US and Mountain Dew from the UK. It's completely different because they know Europeans, because there's better regulation and what they're used to, they won't just eat this fucking shit. So you guys eat the slop while the Europeans get the better stuff, and you guys will die earlier because of this, and you guys will have higher obesity rates. It literally reminds me of the pharmaceutical industry as well, in which, because the US has no drug price regulation, pharmaceutical companies will give their drugs away for free in poorer countries. They'll abide by strict price regulation in the UK, because they know they can jack up the prices massively in the United States to make that lovely profit. Now, if we're talking about the economic situation more on an individual level, a lot of Americans say, like, oh, when I went to Europe, I ate more, but I lost weight because, yeah, your groceries are just so filled with extra crap. But also you have something like, you know, which I didn't even know was a thing until like 3 years ago, food deserts in America, where there'll be loads and loads of people living in suburbs, for example, and there won't be a grocery store close. But there might be like a few dollar stores. There obviously will be a McDonald's or a Taco Bell, and it makes people more reliant on fast food. And of course, this is designed in a certain way because they want you to buy the fast food because these corporations basically own the government. But yeah, that's part of it. Like, so many people in America who don't have access to fresh produce. And also, if you don't have access to fresh produce close, if you're doing a bulk shop at Walmart, for example, that you've drove an hour to, well, you're probably going to stock up more on frozen stuff and stuff that is more processed than the natural stuff that isn't even as good in the first place in many American states anyway. So that even contributes further to people relying on stuff that is unhealthy. Again, this is completely lacking from any analysis of this TikToker. Obviously, we don't know the situation, but no one even brought this up that this could be a thing. And obviously, if you're raised in poverty and you don't have much money, you're going to rely on brands that are even worse for you because they're cheaper. And just to make this even more, there was an article I read because Boris Johnson was big about talking about obesity. This was back in 2020. Larry Elliott from The Guardian writing, poverty causes obesity. Low-income families need to be better off to eat well, which should be obvious to everyone, but seemingly isn't because we individualize systemic problems so much. A paper by Alexander Bentley, Paul Ormerod, and Damien Ruck looks at how obesity evolved in the US between 1990 and 2015. In 1990, about 11% of a typical US state's population was classified as obese, and no state had an adult obesity rate of more than 15%. By 2015, there were several states, such as Mississippi, Alabama, and West Virginia, where the obesity rate was over 35%, and no state had an obesity rate of less than 20%. In one generation, the change has been so dramatic that the obesity rate in any US state in 2015 would have been an extreme outlier in the US in 1990. Mississippi, Alabama, and West Virginia are all among the poorer US states, so the paper also explored whether there was a link between income and obesity. It found that while there was no such correlation in 1990, there certainly was by 2015. In states where the median income was below $45,000 a year, obesity levels were more than 35%, whereas in states where the median income was above $65,000 a year, obesity levels were less than 25%, like Colorado, California, and Massachusetts. This is a developed country phenomenon. In the developing world, calorific intake and obesity levels tend to be higher among the better off. It is also a recent phenomenon. Industrially processed foods with their high sugar and fat content have been available for more than a century, but it is only in the past 3 decades that the link between income and obesity has become so marked. The paper explores a number of reasons for the trend. One is that poor people have plenty of other things to worry about than being overweight. A second is that many low-income families live in food deserts and have to travel long distances to shops that sell these nutritious foods. More than 50 million people in the US live in low-income districts where there is no convenient access to a supermarket. A third is that an increasing number of low-income Americans have become hooked on processed foods with high sugar content, and in particular soft drinks containing high fructose corn syrup. Americans have been consuming refined sugar in food and drink since the 19th century, but it's only since the 1970s that it has been in the form of this high fructose corn syrup, which has increased from virtually 0 per capita to 60 pounds per capita in the 3 decades between 1970 and 2000. It's become the main sweetener in soft drinks, and by 2016, sweetened beverages made up 9% of the household expenditure of low-income households in the US. The obesity and diabetes epidemic could be driven by the commercial oversupply and widespread marketing of inexpensive, high-sugar foods, especially high fructose corn syrup sweetened beverages, according to the paper. Of course, I like this because all of which suggests that an anti-obesity strategy based around trying to ensure children don't watch junk food ads, exhorting the overweight to take up jogging, and advising that it'd be a good idea to ditch the fizzy drinks for a glass of carrot juice is bound to fail. that approach often comes across as downright condescending and misses the point. And that's really the curse of neoliberalism, like these YouTubers have bought into. Like, everything this woman has done in these TikToks is all down to her. It's because she's a shitty person. She chose to be a shitty person. She chose to cook that terrible food for her kids. She chose to give it to them. And even though we don't know anything about her, she should simply make better choices. Everyone could do that, couldn't they? You could all just buy salad instead, or you could buy fruit instead of donuts. Buy like fresh cuts of meat rather than processed frozen stuff. Why doesn't she do that? And that's what I mean. Neoliberal capitalism rots your brain, where you think everything is down to an individual's choice. And the problems of the system are kind of like irrelevant, so you don't even think about them when we talk about this stuff. And we're talking about like high fructose corn syrup. The corn lobby in America is massive, and corn is grown all over America. Food regulations, food deserts, general poverty being worse, general healthcare being worse. And it's just insane to me in a country that is so ravaged by capitalism, basically every single way, it still has so many people just not seeing these issues. And like I said, that is the success of neoliberalism in the UK and the US. We just blame individuals. We blame shitty parents. We call people shit mums for serving their kids bad food while not looking at why someone would do that. Like, why would this happen? And like I said, even if this mum was as terrible as all these people made out, I don't give a shit. Because I don't blame her, I blame the system, and I blame people not having a choice under capitalism. As newsflash everyone, under capitalism, you don't have free will. Anyway, that's it for the video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.
Here is Maria Bartolomo interviewing Eric Trump. This is interesting. Yeah, and really, she drew the short straw, apparently.
Although Eric's been showing his loyalty to Daddy, he was in the courtroom and was reportedly held his father's hand after solemnly, quickly, because it's not gay at all. After the convictions came down, 34 counts, and Don was not there. So Eric, he gets to go on TV and audition for Daddy's favorite little boy
you get
here.
To go on Bartolomo if she has not thrown herself off out of a window. So sad about my conviction.
Yeah.
You know,
Eric,
they want
everybody wants
prosperity.
to know.
They want somebody who will actually be a cheerleader.
Everybody wants to know what this verdict means for the presidential election. You know that. That's all anyone's talking about at this point. Will President Trump be able to run and win? Will he be able to do the things that he was planning on doing for the campaign to actually be victorious in November? What are the restrictions they're putting on, and what is your answer to that?
Well, Maria, as I walked out of that courthouse that day, I said May 30th, 2024 might be the day that won it for Donald Trump. I'm telling you, I've never seen this country more upset about what's happening. And, you know, it's a law of unintended consequences. The Democrats always dig so deep that they end up finding themselves. They think that their little trickery will be overlooked, that they're smarter than everybody else. America's looking through this nonsense. And I think the harder they hit him, the more they do this, the more money he's going to raise, the more independence he's going to get. As I mentioned, I mean, the swing of independent voters after this conviction has been unbelievable because no one believes it. And, you know, they're literally feeding him, you know, certain segments of the population that he might not have had in 2016 and 2020. Because for the first time, they realize that the system's coming down, that he's the victim. He's the victim that oftentimes some of their communities were. And,
oh, my God.
And you see them swing. You look at the African-American vote, right? That's swinging over to Donald Trump in spades. Look at the Hispanic vote over the last couple of years. You know, look at the youth vote right now, Maria. I mean, we've never had more youth support out there. And people know exactly what's going on, and they want a strong country again.
Okay. Let's just start with the absolute, like, no. Rancid racism associated with the idea that Donald Trump gets convicted. Obviously, black people are going to be like, hey, wait a second, this guy's one of us.
And Hispanic people.
And Hispanic people.
And young people who, Eric kind of threw in there, I think, because he realized perhaps I went down and said my inner thoughts in a way I maybe shouldn't have expressed them. I don't know.
Morning Consult poll, 54% of registered voters strongly or somewhat approve of the guilty verdict, compared to 34% strongly or somewhat disapprove. 49% of independents and 15% of Republicans said Trump should end his campaign because of the conviction. Polls found the race effectively tied. Now, let me say this. Prior to his conviction, the number of independents and the number of Republicans who have said that Trump should end his campaign because of the conviction would have been 0%, because he wouldn't have been convicted. Now, half of independents and 15% of Republicans say that he should end his campaign. 68% of registered voters say the punishment should be a fine. I do think that if Donald Trump was to be sent to jail for this, that there might be some sympathy for him. Donald Trump is not going to jail for this.
For this.
For this. He's not. I mean, I would be shocked, and I think people would be shocked. And I think the judge even said during the course of the trial, when they were trying to argue that he should not be tried, when they were trying to get some type of like summary dismissal or something to that effect, the judge basically lied. Like, he's not going to jail for this.
Yeah. I should just, the lineage of this take, it goes back earlier in the month, in May, to Stephen A. Smith. ESPN sort of commentator, also personal friend of Mark Levin. He said on Hannity, black folks find him relatable because what he is going through is similar to what black Americans have gone through. When you see the law being exercised against him, it is something that black folks throughout this nation can relate to. And Stephen A. Smith later had to apologize for it. He said, a lot of folks in black America seem to be pissed at me right now. For that, I sincerely apologize that they misconstrued what they thought he was saying.
What did he explain what he thought he was saying?
He said, look, I don't really say it was, yeah, no, he didn't really, I don't think, clarify to at least my satisfaction.
Certainly not. He's also, Stephen A. also making some headlines today for his WNBA coverage, but that's a bit of an aside.
Oh, he's an attention seeker, maybe.
Yeah, Trump has said something similar before. Like, I am, color me a little bit skeptical that the country's more outraged about this unanimous jury conviction of Donald Trump, who now everybody kind of understands is a crook, more than anything that they've ever seen that's going to catapult Donald Trump to the White House. The act has worn thin. The act of, like, everyone's out to get me has worn thin. They're worried about suburban moms. What suburban mom is gonna be actually like, yeah, when they're coming out for Donald Trump with this, they're coming after me too.
Because I might falsify business records because of an affair with him.
I was on the fence about going to the polls today, but because of what I saw Eric say on Maria Bartiromo, I'm going to the polls.
Meanwhile, the Democrats never miss an opportunity to attempt to give away any type of political advantage they may have in a situation. They are advising all of their, their talking heads and their surrogates and to downplay it. I mean, it's just absurd. It is just absurd.
Because they want to look above politics.
They want to look
while
above
doing politics.
They're saying that this is politically motivated, so don't go out there and actually use it. I mean, here's the problem with that. If you look at the polls at this point, for Donald Trump to win, he needs to bring out voters that did not vote in 2016, or really, actually, in terms of, I think the data shows, did not vote in 2018, did not vote in 2020, did not vote in 2022. Those are the voters that Donald Trump is doing the best with in these registered voter polls. The ones that he's doing the worst with are the people who voted in 2018, 2020, and 2022. And then he does a little bit better if they've only voted in 2 elections, and then they does a little bit better if they've only voted in 1 of the past 3 elections. So that means that the people who in these polls are saying that they're going to vote for Donald Trump are low propensity voters, definitely, by definition. And they're probably people who don't pay much attention to politics. The only way they're going to hear about Donald Trump as a convicted felon, because the media is already like now talking about Hunter Biden, and they're all going to go past, and is if the Democrats force the news media to cover them calling him a convicted felon.
So why are they talking about Hunter Biden?
Because
the Republicans made a non-issue into an issue, and this is an actually massive issue.
I mean, like, think of like how much mileage they got off of Hunter Biden's laptop, which is still unclear what the deal is with that whole thing, based upon Twitter not wanting to link to unverified stories about it that show Hunter Biden's dick pics. I mean, it was an entire, like, there is an entire movement, like a billionaire bought Twitter because of this.
Yeah, it's still like a shaboom.
And there's a difference in quality there too, where you have to also trust that the Republicans are freaking insane, and that if you're going to make a case, it's going to be easier to sell it to the American public just because of the nature of the facts. I would hope.
I don't think even the natures of the facts make a difference. Yeah. I mean, all that needs to get out to people is convicted felon.
They should be pointing his finger.
But that is the facts.
That is the facts, but that's it. You don't need to describe anything else. Convicted felon.
I agree.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
Here's what people don't want to know. I should have the right as a red-blooded American to drink while driving.
If you spend a lot of time watching commentary channels in the mid-2010s, you probably watched Leafy, or at the very least are aware of Leafy, and his weird assortment of characters that he's talked about throughout the years. One of his more prominent figures is a man named Devin Sweeney, who went on these weird, esoteric rants about random bullshit all the time.
Oh, you think you're strong and you think you can take me down? Okay, bring it, because I will get a motherfucking metal fucking bat and beat you in the fucking leg. Give you a fucking concussion.
And Leafy made a series talking about him. They went back and forth, hoo-ha.
A lot of YouTubers get jealous when they see a YouTuber making, you know, some crazy good content and are just blowing up on YouTube. But I don't take it that way. You know, I see a person like Devin here that makes just some of the best videos I've ever seen, and that's just me. And yeah, if you got your $5 and you're ready to get a blowjob from Mr. fucking Potato Head, just...
Devin still makes videos today.
The motherfucking chili is heating up. Yummy, yummy in my tummy. Cause I got ambition to make some chili wraps. I'm in the kitchen making some chili wraps. Can you give me a plate, Doug? Yeah. So right now I'm going to be testing out the chili wraps that me and my dad made for our dinner tonight.
But how he's relevant is during that time frame, he interacted with a man named Josselman, also known as Joshua Bailey, currently called Jenny Bailey, who is this fat lolcow who pisses and shits inside of his room, doesn't clean up after himself, thinks he's the new incarnate of Eminem, and also creates art on Instagram. He's a jack of all trades, he's a master at none, and that's what we've come to truly love about him. A couple of years ago, they sort of teamed up to create this Instagram account called Foster Home Origin, which was basically a combination of Devin, Josh, and this other man named Uncle Don. And they create a bunch of these cameos that people could buy. They would make these weird, odd videos on their Instagram page that would circulate, and they reached roughly 80,000 followers at one point before the Instagram got shut down. Josh has had these run-ins with plenty of other popular YouTubers throughout his time span. Another prominent figure is the Amazing Atheist, somebody that everybody loves on the internet. Essentially, when Josh was starting out his YouTube channel, he was impersonating a lot of people. He was trying to climb his way to the top. And one of those ways was imitating the Drunken Peasants podcast. Now, if you know anything about the Drunken Peasants podcast, the one thing you might know is when a popular political figure named Milo went on to the podcast and talked about how the child enthusiasts of the world are not that bad, and the fact that he was taken advantage of as a kid, not that bad. Who cares? Why have any laws built around it? So that is probably the most prominent figure. They still get a decent showing. You know, their Patreon has almost $3,000 a month coming in, but Josh thought it would be a good idea to take a stab at doing podcast work early on, and they absolutely shit upon him. Absolutely desecrated.
Podcast. There's another podcast called the Random Discussion Podcast, and it's so bad it's like barely watchable. The Random Discussions Podcast.
RDP. This is probably a total troll podcast, though.
Let's take a look.
Let's see.
Here's the only one that's of any length. Well, and you see, we can see TJ in it twice.
Of course, because I've been in this podcast so many times.
So I'm going to respond to
he's going to he tells you that he's going to respond.
I'm going to respond to the video I just told you I was going to respond to. Watch it.
Stop now. I want to destroy these people.
And they're just trying to use my face to sell that boring shit, too. Fuck it!
Right.
Fuck it! This is just like the Amazing Atheist. You know his vivacious, like crazy style? Well, I replicate it perfectly. Check it out. Fucking sucks!
Now, moving forward, we're gonna see how Josh sort of built his brand. You know, he interacted with some pretty prominent figures for a while, but there's a good chance you've never heard of him. A lot of the information about Josh is scrubbed from the internet. He, like most locals, go around deleting channels, making new channels, disappearing from the internet. It's hard to keep up with him. So I'm going to take my stab at some of the prominent information I could find currently on the internet. So we're going to look throughout everything and how Josh became famous. Some of the earliest videos I could find about Josh were these weird videos that he would have spats with random small commentary channels in the past.
He celebrates her 200 subscriber mark, but she only got that from his brothers. I actually earned that.
And not to mention, the clown himself gets a sub boost from fucking the Conundrum.
You're out of base. You're talking about my videos. You combine them together, which is what I usually have done in the past, then that would combine to at least 88 views compared to your 46. And given your video that was the most popular, I think, yeah, that video, I already trumped that on my Racer Clip video, and that was one of my first too.
If you weren't around during those days of like 2015, 2016, you might not quite understand, but there was this like vortex of regardation that went down where everybody and their mother was making commentary videos because they were the hot shit around then. and people would get in spats with each other because they thought drama would be the thing that propelled them to the top. And Josh was no different. He was also, like any other YouTuber with aspirations of becoming a millionaire, becoming famous online, thought that he could propel himself by constantly comparing himself to one another.
So, that nerdy bitch, basically, she's got more subs than me, but if you really think about it, if you take all my videos and you add up all the views, I have the same amount of views as one of her videos. I think it's kind of unfair that she got a boost from people. I think Egghead just riding the drunken peasant's dick and he's the shittiest YouTuber of all time. Even though I stand out here and point my fucking camera at the ground for like 1 minute, sometimes 4 minutes if you're lucky. I just thought I'd come outside for no reason, you know. It's a lot cooler when you just stand outside and just point the camera at the ground. See my house, guys? Doesn't it look cool? Look at it. See, they just added this new bush. It's so cool. Yeah. It needs a little work, but it's all right.
And it just kind of rained down on him because he would contradict himself nonstop, but he was always interested in talking about how successful he was here, how less successful somebody was over there, including he would just wander around outside every once in a while, and he would show our surroundings. And I can't be absolutely positive about where Josh's dwellings take place, but my interpretation from some of the information that I gathered is he was located in somewhere remote Texas, and that's all I can really know. Who knows if this rundown shack was his house? I don't think it was, but based on the insights that we'll see later, it's really hard to tell.
I really appreciate checking out my stuff and coming back to it, because I'm not quite sure what subscribers this fast. So, yeah, check out my YouTube channel.
Like any good locale, Josh had his detractors. He had plenty of people trying to troll him all the time, including getting him to just join random live streams, and I don't know, I never really could peg him as somebody that was capable of deciphering that they were trying to get one over on him. But he went on this live stream at one point where a group of people were basically talking smack, saying, well, Josh is, he's not going to be able to graduate. And they don't feel that bad because Josh, he'll never be able to hold down a job because he's lazy and can't accomplish anything.
So we talked a little bit earlier today. There's no way you're going to graduate.
I almost didn't go to school today.
Yeah, so what? You're fucked. You're done, man. What do we do? This sucks. Says, what's a diploma going to do for Josh? My point exactly. And that's what I said to him today. I would feel bad if I was like, yeah, Josh, I want you to not graduate, if him graduating meant his life was going to improve at all. But, and I'm not being mean, it's the truth. I love you, Josh. I know you really well. You go to any job interview, let's say the 1 out of 1,000 chance that you actually get the job at the gas station or whatever, you'll get fired in a week because you can't just shit your pants and tell them you want to go home. And get someone from your school that's over 18 for me to interview about you so I could buy you a $60 video game. So if you can't do that little of work for that much of a payoff, there's no way you're going to do the amount of work required to hold a minimum wage job, which is all you would be qualified to get.
And Josh even said in a interview recently, within the past half year or so, that he was talking about how he really only has one real IRL friend to talk to.
Have you got
That's why.
Is a lot of your like social life on the internet, or have you got friends in real life you can talk to?
I have friends in real life. I guess I could like one friend in real life. I guess I could talk to.
Oh, that's good then. So if you lose your
we
access
did a podcast together, but I forget about podcasting.
should definitely do the podcast.
Like most inner locals, he's stuck in this perpetual torment of getting his socialization from online, which is obviously not healthy, especially for somebody who has gone through plenty of complications on a health side, to say the least.
Like transition or whatever, but
yeah,
in terms of being trans, like 3 years, but like I've kind of struggled with it for like years before that. In fact, one of my Instagram posts, I kind of like said I was like non-binary, which is just but that was more me like struggling with the whole gender thing and like wondering if it really mattered or not.
For one, as I mentioned, I keep calling him Josh. That's what he's most known by, but he is trans. He's going through transitions or something, and he goes by Jenny now. He has a weird catfish Instagram that was brought up, and that's all I really want to talk about with it. I'm gonna leave that for some other brave soul to talk about. That's not my cup of tea.
I'm not saying like it justifies anything, but I do have bipolar, so maybe that kind of makes things a little weird.
Okay. Yeah, that does explain.
Yeah, I don't think it like determines like the decision making that much, but
one aspect that does pique my interest is that Josh claims to be diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and we can't know for certain if that's true, but what we can examine is the fact that for once we're not really interacting with a locale who shouldn't understand right from wrong, who shouldn't understand or have a moral code that guides them. He is a person that should know all of the deeds that he is doing are wrong. And I think he does know deep down, if I'm being 100% honest. For example, he flip-flops on doxing. Early on, he talks about how he thinks doxing's okay, and this is one of the first interactions that I was able to become aware of between him and Devin.
I think he should be allowed to give out public opinion. Now, does he have a right to? I wouldn't say so because I don't think so. I don't exactly know. I know that names are public information, but whether they are allowed to be shared, I don't know. But this whole idea that names bring knowledge to your family and fantastic, whatever, look, I have given out my name publicly. You can't judge him for revealing
Devin is known for perpetually doxing people online that talk shit about him. And Josh defended him. He said, you know what? That's most definitely what it's up to. I'm gonna take his side on that. And he'll walk it back every once in a while, but we just don't know what he actually believes in. It's always hard to tell. And when it comes to the trolling, we talked about how Josh had a group of people that were always trying to get one over on him. You know, make him look like a fool, expose all the weird, esoteric things that he would do in his everyday life. And that included sending the principal of his high school confirmation that Josh shits himself while he's at school so that he can leave early.
Well, I didn't show it to his principal. I showed it to his vice principal and his counselor.
So this Pelican right here somehow gets access to a computer and emails Josh's guidance counselor and vice principal. Now, Josh, tell us what happens from there.
Well, basically, I'm in class and she steps me out and basically says, is it true that you like to shit on yourself? And I'm like, no, it's just a misconception.
Now, I'm not one. I've seen memes about it. of saying, oh, do you really not like going to work? Shit your pants. What are they gonna do? Tell you you can't go home? You just shit yourself. I mean, I think Josh might have been a trendsetter. He might have been figuring this out. Unfortunately, this whole shitting thing goes a little bit too far. We'll examine that here pretty soon. He also pulls a Wings of Redemption where he kind of gets caught up in his words.
But like even 16 at 45, that I'd let that slide because a 16-year-old can make her own damn decisions.
Always thought you had a crush on me.
There's not ample evidence of him being an outright creep, but there is this one quote that I could find where he was basically saying, it was a Wings of Redemption quote. Well, a teen girl, she knows what she's talking about. It's not like a little kid. Having sex with a teen's not that big of a deal.
So Josh, what did you mean when you said you don't understand why people that have sex with children are bastardized?
I did not say that. I said teenagers. They are.
Okay, I mean I can play it back.
Well, they're teens.
Teens only for you, right?
I'm not allowed to have sex with teenagers, except for 18 or 19. But
So you say 18 or 19, and then the caveat is you say but. Okay, listen.
I can't believe that people bastardize people who sleep with teenagers. They're not children. Okay, legally they are, but they're not. They have.
So you aren't talking about 18 and 19-year-olds. You are talking about the ones that are legally children, which would be under 18. You said it. These are your words that I'm playing.
Okay, when I was talking about, they're legally children, meaning that teenagers are legally considered children.
Yes, a 13-year-old is a child. We agree there. And I think it is not okay to have sex with one. Now you seem to think differently.
Because they have the tits. It's different. They're not like children. I'm not a... Teenagers are not... they're not children. They're children by law, but not children by any stretch of the imagination.
So someone says, like uncle, dad, like son. Yeah, do you think this has anything to do with the fact that you were molested when you were a kid?
He gets caught in that little trap there. Who knows what he actually thinks, but I think it's pertinent to bring it up in this discussion of him just not really having these bolts tied in too tight into his head.
I'm hated so much, but I don't give a fuck. People playing like this is a fucking video game. Oh, sorry, I'm just writing your motherfucking death warrant, because I'm about to make another fucking mess.
Josh's first forays onto the internet was the aspirations of being a rapper. Who doesn't want to be a rapper? Nothing says being a rapper like growing up in a poop-filled household, because everybody can relate to the struggles of that. He goes from time to time mumbling random lyrics of a rapist that I have no clue what he's saying.
Hey, I'm rapping along to one of my favorite songs by Jack Harlow. I'm going in for that baby. Little baby. Little baby. Little baby.
Or what he's uttering, but he's a professional. He's a professional music artist, all right? You want to know how professional he is? He's dunking on Anthony Fantano.
That guy was a few screws short of a workbench.
All right, get that shit out of here. Slam Doink, get that shit out of here. He's reviewing other Eminem knockoffs. That's right, baby. He's reviewing a guy named DJ C.
All
right, let's get started on Israel, Hamas, IDF strikes UN school in Gaza, killing 40.
Israeli fighter jets struck in the middle of the night. The people were sleeping, huddled in an UNRWA school in Deir al-Balah. As so often in this war, a place that should have been safe but wasn't. The Gazan Health Ministry.
For the record, I need you to understand something. This is central Gaza, okay? This is not Rafah. This is a UNRWA school turned into another, like, you know, refugee camp, basically. People are inside the school, and Israel, unsurprisingly, bombed it.
School had terrorists who actually took part in the murderous attack of October the 7th. We took them out.
Please just notice what the reporter says at the end, and now she does a Hamas is responsible take. Yeah. Sorry, children and women that we just killed. 40 of you, the majority of the people killed in this refugee camp being women and children. We decided, you know, Hamas. You are now Hamas.
Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists of the Nukba forces. They obviously sought to exploit the school and and shelter there.
This is so funny because he's like, yes, they thought that we hold back if there were women and children there. And boy, were they wrong. We do not hold back. Have you not seen what we've done for the past 8 months?
Catastrophe on a scale that it's very hard to believe unless you see it, with many children, but also people of all ages.
Genuinely, honestly, what is the argument Israel's use when people ask why they don't just go arrest the Hamas guys instead of bombing the entire hospital? No one makes that argument because it is taken for granted that Israel gets to do what Israel wants to do. How are we going to make this argument? You know, almost 40,000 people have been slaughtered over the course of the past 8 months.
Today, the Israel Defense Forces put out footage of their troops operating in Rafah. Although the Americans have presented the latest proposal for a temporary, then permanent ceasefire as an Israeli initiative, it's not. Neither Hamas nor Israel has.
It's crazy because it's like they said that this was the Israeli proposal. Biden said this was the Israeli proposal. Why is Israel not signing on to its own proposal? It's just so weird. Please explain in chat why all Israelis despise UNRWA and go out of their way to vilify them, even though the UNRWA in Gaza is run by a highly respected, decorated United States retired Army general. You know why they hate UNRWA, right? Without UNRWA's presence, Palestinians aren't technically refugees, so they will have no right to return or something. It's a evil loophole. It's that, and also because UNRWA literally hires Palestinians. UNRWA is the Refugee Relief Works Agency for the United Nations. It almost entirely works with Palestinians, however. The UN, I guess, like in some weird way, feels responsible for, I mean, not weird way, obvious way, feels responsible for the creation of Israel. So they were like, we gotta do something. The entirety of UNRWA basically works with Palestinian refugees for the most part. UNRWA is a lifeline for the Palestinians. They get money, they get the international community's funds, and basically hire Palestinians. That's how UNRWA works. Yeah, it is the largest employer of Gazans in general.
The school is sheltering 6,000 people. Given the population of Gaza, the majority of those people will have been women and children. We've heard reports and estimates of between 35 and 45.
I agree the framing is wrong because Israel has all the power to stop the warfare, but that guy was literally cursing the leader of Hamas like word for word. Yeah, of course. I mean, that is also understandable. I think a lot of people forget that the Palestinian population of the Gaza Strip are not a monolithic force either. What the fuck are we doing? Yeah, it's perfectly valid and perfectly understandable for people to also be very upset at Yahya Sinwar or any number of different like Hamas leadership, depending on what their framework is, depending on what they think is going on. He's looking at a massacred family member. You can't criticize someone cursing the names of who thinks are responsible for the mangled bodies in front of them. Wait, what? I'm not doing that. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm not doing that at all. There's polling done in Gaza. I don't know how the fuck they do it, but there's still Palestinians being polled inside of Gaza. It's not like Hamas's 100% approval rating. Hamas's approval rating only increases in times of Israel's bombing campaigns, only to decrease later down the line. They're not exactly great at civil governance in general. They're not exactly super popular. They never were super popular. They were never as popular as they are now, all things considered. They've always been more popular in the West Bank than they are in Gaza for the most part. That's really important to remember. But a part of the reason why people are probably frustrated is because of the Israeli narrative that they try to beef up all the goddamn time. They're hiding amongst the civilian population, and therefore it gives Israel righteous cause. Now, ultimately, obviously, from where I'm standing, I can make the calculation that it is ultimately still Israel's responsibility. And the example would be if a Ukrainian turned around and was like, God damn you, Zelensky, why wouldn't you just like concede the Russian interest? You would never in a million years see that on mainstream media. No mainstream media outlet would show that Ukrainians' perspective because everyone understands it's ultimately Russia's fault. It's crazy. Except nobody ever makes that analysis because people are desperate to always align themselves with whoever America has decided are the good guys in every conflict. My only frustration with this would ultimately still be that it is up to the media to like show what is the prevailing narrative in general, and also beyond that, do their very best to showcase exactly who is responsible. It's ridiculous. When Russia bombs a civilian, a mall or whatever, nobody goes, oh man, really that like Ukrainian soldiers have frequented this mall. That would be ridiculous. It is still a war crime. Just like what Israel is doing is a war crime. PCPSR releases polls every 1 to 2 months, and you can compare West Bank attitudes with Gaza. Pretty interesting. Yeah, West Bank is always way more ride or die for Hamas than the people actually living under Hamas by a pretty solid margin. And that is because they don't exist under Hamas, so they only see Hamas as a defensive measure. If you were to poll not Palestinians, but just like American leftists, they would probably be way more pro-Hamas than the entirety of the Palestinian population. That's why you hear a lot of people in the Western world say things along the lines of like, no, these guys have to fight till every last Palestinian or whatever. And that's because like we do have a way more bloodthirsty culture here in the Western world, ironic because we don't consider ourselves under those terms or conditions, but we are way more bloodthirsty than the supposedly barbaric Arab monsters that we are talking about here.
What do you make of what happened in that facility overnight?
This was an attack on a crowded UN facility that is protected under humanitarian law.
It's protected under humanitarian law and it's run by the UN, but here is my counter. Hamas, I rest my case. I rest my case. Have you considered Hamas? Hamas. Do you know what Israel's excuse for not having operational control over north and central Gaza? No, they have no excuse. And you have to remember, if you believe, like I do, that Israel's higher goal here isn't necessarily to like eradicate Hamas, but instead to eradicate a decent chunk of the Palestinian population that won't go so above and beyond that like the Western world will still give it assurances and support and expend social and political capital to defend them while still giving them a steady flow of munitions because they would run out of ammo pretty quickly if it wasn't for America, while simultaneously the complete destruction of all civil infrastructure so that Palestinians have nowhere to live but rubble. If that is their ultimate goal, Hamas is good for them. Like Hamas being able to operate in central Gaza and in North Gaza is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a good thing because they can always point to it and go, see, Hamas. Now, of course, that doesn't make sense from the Israeli perspective because the Israeli perspective should be, I thought you eviscerated Hamas in central Gaza. I thought you eviscerated Hamas in North Gaza. And now you're saying they still exist in North Gaza. They still exist in central Gaza. Sometimes Hamas even lobs missiles into Israel. What the f is going on? Ultimately, for them, it's perfect because, as I mentioned, they can simply point to it and say, this is why we have to keep blowing up.
We can't verify what's going on in there with our own eyes, with our team.
By the way, the reason why people don't ask that question inside of Israel is because the higher goal, the higher purpose of this like siege, just like every other siege, is shared by the broader Israeli public as well. That's the reason. It's shared by the broader Israeli public. They also want the IDF to keep, eviscerating Gaza. Yeah, polling throughout the month since October shows the average Israeli doesn't think they're hitting them hard enough. Yes. Specifically, overwhelming support from the Jewish Israeli population, which is comprised of 75% of the Israeli population, almost always overwhelmingly supported the notion that the IDF is not bombing Gaza hard enough. Even when directly asked about the civilian casualties, that calculation does not change. Daniel Hagari, of course, came out immediately and was like, they are terrorists operating inside of a UN school. UNRWA is working with the terrorists.
The IDF conducted a precise intelligence-based strike, targeted dozens of Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists hiding inside a UN school in Gaza. Some of these terrorists participated in the Hamas massacre of October 7th.
This is for Americans and the Western world to hear. In Hebrew, he doesn't have to make these defenses. In Hebrew, he's just like, yeah, we killed him. It's great. It's awesome. Who gives it? But to the Western world, he has to be like, here is why we killed a bunch of women and children today. Knowing full well, a lot more people are paying attention and a lot more people associating Israel's bombing campaigns with the negative connotation of killing women and children, majority women and children, which is what they did again, because this is where refugees were sleeping when they did that.
We stopped a ticking time bomb. This is what it was.
Every time we blow up a school, it's a ticking time bomb, guys. You don't understand. It's a ticking time bomb of Hamas.
We delayed our strike twice because we identified civilians in the area.
So why did you choose not to delay it then? What changed? You still ended up killing a load of civilians. I think directly 5 children out of the 40, and the majority of those killed were women and children. Again,
we had aerial surveillance that had been monitoring the Hamas compound for a few days. We conducted the strike once our intelligence and surveillance indicated that there were no women or children inside the Hamas compound, inside those.
So how did women and children die regardless?
Classrooms. Despite the complex operational conditions, our Air Force used precise munitions to target the 3 specific classrooms that the terrorists were hiding inside. Here are some of the terrorists who were hiding inside the UN school in Nuseirat, who we eliminated before they could carry out more attacks against Israelis. Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists, some from the Nukba force. Terrorists with blood on their hands.
Bro, you have blood on your hands. You mean? You are currently describing the blood you have on your hands of women and children. I cannot believe these terrorists have blood on their hands. This is why we had to kill all of the women and children, which were valid.
These are only a few of the terrorists we eliminated. There are more. Some of them took part in the brutal massacre of October 7th. We are working to verify the...
Yeah, they are really using the defense of if a school shooter was holding kids hostage, we should blow up the school. Oh, 100%. 100%. How do we not know that they are just regular civilian men? They could be, or they could be actual Islamic Jihad militants, or even part of the Nukba force staying in the UN facility. Not everyone is literally hiding in the tunnels. You have to remember that.
The IDF will continue to operate according to international law. The systematic abuse of UN facilities is a war crime, and it must be stopped by the world. We will continue to do everything in our power to bring our hostages.
This is another one of my favorite arguments that Israel deploys regularly. It's like it's Hamas that's doing a war crime. It's not us. They're doing a double war crime because they're causing us to do a war crime by doing a war crime.
As we fulfill this mission, we will continue exposing the true face of Hamas to the world. Thank you.
Hamas and Islamic Jihad, usually in Telegram channels, will openly reveal when any of their militants have been martyred. I don't know if they have about these guys. If they will say, though, if they have died, if they've been killed, they will say, like, these were our guys, they got martyred. I don't know. I have no way of checking. Maybe there's people in here that could. I think that people on the ground, people that are there, have said that, no, of course they weren't operating out of the UN facility, but you can't really trust them because they're Arab, you know, they're all Hamas technically. But the fact that they're actually showing faces and whatnot probably implies that they were most likely in the facility, most likely staying in the facility. I doubt that they were shooting out of the facility or anything like that. Since October 7th, there's something that I have brought up over and over and over and over again, and that is that you cannot conduct a war like this. The reason why they are hiding inside of the civilian population is because more often than not, that is their family members that you are killing alongside them. We know this from the Where's Daddy AI targeting system that they have. Not just Lavender, but also the Where's Daddy alert system that informs the Israeli Air Force or the Israeli drone strikers to hit certain targets when they go home and are around their families. I've covered this extensively. Here it is. This is from 2 months ago. This is the video if you guys want to learn more about it. There's also an article from 972 magazine. That is the article I'm reading here by Yuval Abraham, who found that there is a AI targeting system called Lavender that populates targets for the drones to target, and also on top of that, drone operatives are alerted when a suspected militant is home alongside their family members. That's when they strike. So something to consider. Just so you understand what Israelis see, the main front page headline at Ynet right now is IDF reveals the identity of terrorists eliminated honor school attacking international media. The Ma'ariv headline was the world was angry at the strike on the school. Now it was revealed what was hiding there. While Wallace was IDF spokesperson operating in Rafah is difficult and takes time. Though neither was on the front page, they either omit the truth or straight up act as IDF spokespeople. Of course they do. The Israeli media is insane with the way that it operates. You know, this doesn't mean that there aren't like good journalists in Israel. There certainly are, and sometimes they are literally better at doing real journalism out of Israel than the Western media is, but most of the popular outlets are operating alongside the IDF. State spokesperson was asked about Israeli strike on UN school. How does this not cross the red line the president laid out? I suspect that his answer is going to be, well, it's not in Rafah, and the red line is supposed to be about Rafah, but not really.
Where Hamas is hiding inside a school, other militants are hiding inside a school. Those individuals are legitimate targets, but at the same time, they're embedded near civilians. Israel has a right to try and target those civilians, but they also have the obligation.
I mean, it's a Freudian slip, but like, can you blame him, bro? Can you blame him? Can you blame him? I mean, Israel is targeting civilians every day, dog. Of course, after a certain point of repeating that over and over again, he's gonna inevitably blurt it out. Israel has a right to target the civilians. Functionally, what he's saying is that regardless, here he is in color, 4K.
Israel has a right to try and target those civilians, but they also have the obligation to minimize civilian harm and take every step possible to minimize civilian harm. So that's why we were pressing the government of Israel and the IDF to be completely transparent about what happened here. We want to know the facts as much as anyone.
Welcome back to the Papa Meat channel. How you doing? How you doing? Come on in and sit on down, because today we are talking about alpha males. Yes, alpha males. I've been scrolling through Instagram for a while, and for some reason on Reels, I used to see a little more on TikTok, but on Reels for some reason, Instagram just has a lot of alpha males. I guess you could say Andrew Tate wannabe kind of guys, but mostly just men who are fixated on a set of rules that lets them also be a man. I mean, I'm talking alpha boot camps, spiritual alphaness, business alphaness, anything that makes you a stronger man, because we need grown men online to sell us courses on how to be men. I don't know how to be a man. That's why I've collectively spent $70,000 every month on alpha male courses so I can please my wife and I can be the best man I can possibly be, spiritually, socially, and economically. Right? I'm a little business fiend. But what's prompted this idea today that made me want to talk about this was one man in particular that I've had a lot of fun watching. And who am I talking about, of course? Well, his name is Andy Elliott.
You're killing yourself, get it? So get disgusted.
I've been seeing Andy Elliott pop up on my timeline for whatever reason. I don't know if his promoted posts are just targeted towards me, my demographic of a, not respecting man. But Andy has popped up everywhere, and his Instagram reels are a little unhinged.
What if someone kidnapped your son David and they told him they were going to kill him unless you sold 40 cars a month?
There go another player tip. You gotta kill yourself.
But before I dive into him, let me tell you a little bit about him. Andy Elliott is the founder and CEO of the Elliott Group, which he uses to promote his Alpha Leader Mindset training program. Okay?
You cannot fuck with us. Culture. So I can say, move right, bam, they'll shift now. I can say, move left, bam, they'll shift now.
He's a motivational speaker and guru whose whole shtick is that he trains people on how to be a better salesman. Everything we look at today is going to be courses on be a better salesman. Which Andy specializes in cars. He's a car salesman. Imagine you go to a Kia or a Toyota dealership, and this is this giant thumb comes up to you and starts talking this way. Andy used to be a car salesman and claims to have made $720,000 in 1 year on used cars in Norman.